The sound of handcuffs tightening is a noise you never forget once you hear it in your own living room. It is not like in the movies where it is just a scuffle and a shout. In real life, it is a distinct, mechanical ratchet sound. Click. 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 It cuts through the air like a knife, sharper and colder than any scream. I stood with my back against the cold, Italian marble of my kitchen island, my arms folded tightly across my chest. I watched the police officer twist my mother's arms behind her back. The smooth jazz music that had been floating through my penthouse just minutes ago was dead silent. The 40 or so guests were frozen. These were women in their 60s, draped in expensive shawls and smelling of powdery floral perfume. They looked like statues in a museum of horror. Some were clutching their pearl necklaces so hard I thought the strings might snap, sending white beads scattering across the floor. Others were trying to blend into the white walls, praying to become invisible. My mother, Deborah, was not invisible. She was the center of attention, just as she had always craved to be. But for the first time in her 58 years of life, she had lost control of the room. Her face, usually composed in a mask of smug superiority, was crumbling. "Sienna!" She screamed my name, her voice cracking from its usual polished socialite tone into something guttural and terrified. "Sienna, tell them. Tell them this is a mistake. I am your mother." I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had given birth to me. I looked at the woman who was currently being read her Miranda rights in the middle of my living room, while a uniformed police officer held her by the elbow. I felt a wave of nausea roll through my stomach, hot and acidic. But I did not step forward. I did not open my mouth to save her. I simply looked at the sergeant and said, in a voice that didn't sound like mine, "I do not know these people. And I want them out of my house." To understand why I stood there and watched my own mother get arrested without shedding a single tear, you have to understand the history of this room. You have to understand the key. And you have to understand that this wasn't just a party. It was the final battle in a war that had been raging for 29 years. My name is Sienna. I am 29 years old, and I am the lead architect at a firm that designs sustainable luxury living spaces. I have worked 80-hour weeks for 7 years straight to get here. I have missed my best friends' birthdays. I have missed weddings. I have missed dates. I sacrificed my entire 20s to build a career that would give me one specific thing: autonomy. The penthouse wasn't just a purchase. It was a trophy. It sits on the 42nd floor, overlooking the city skyline. It is a space of glass, steel, and silence. Silence is the most expensive thing I own. Growing up, my house was never silent. My mother, Deborah, is a hoarder of attention and noise. Our childhood home in the suburbs was a chaotic museum dedicated to her ego. Every wall was plastered with photos of me and my sister, Riley, but they were always staged. We looked like dolls, props in her play of the perfect family. There was clutter everywhere. Porcelain figurines, stacks of magazines she never read, half-finished craft projects. And the noise. The constant sound of her voice directing, criticizing, complaining, and managing our lives. When I bought the penthouse, I designed it to be the exact opposite of that trauma. Minimalist. White oak floors. Floor-to-ceiling windows. No clutter. No knickknacks. Just clean lines and quiet. It was my sanctuary. It was the only place in the world where I didn't have to be Deborah's daughter. Here, I was just Sienna. The problem with people like my mother is that they view boundaries as personal insults. They don't see a closed door as a request for privacy, they see it as a challenge. I learned this the hard way when I was 16. I was a quiet teenager, pouring all my angst and secrets into a leather-bound journal. I wrote about boys, about my insecurities, about how much I hated the pressure my mother put on me to be perfect. I hid it under a loose floorboard in my closet. One Thanksgiving, the entire extended family was over. Aunts, uncles, cousins. We were all sitting in the living room, digesting turkey, when my mother stood up. Oh, everyone, you have to hear this, she announced, beaming. Sienna is turning into such a little writer. I found the most adorable story in her room. My blood ran cold. She pulled out my journal. Mom, don't, I whispered. Oh, hush, it is cute, she waved me off. And then, she proceeded to read. She didn't read the poetic parts. She read the entry about my crush on the boy who worked at the gas station. She read the part where I questioned if my nose was too big. She read the part where I said I wished I could run away. The room erupted in laughter. My aunts were cackling. Oh, teenage drama, they screeched. I sat there, 16 years old, feeling like I was being skinned alive. I didn't cry. I just dissociated. I floated out of my body and watched the scene from the ceiling. Later, when I confronted her, screaming and crying in the kitchen, she looked at me with genuine confusion. Why are you so sensitive? We were just having fun. You shouldn't write things down if you don't want people to read them. I am your mother, I have a right to know who you are. That was the lesson. In Deborah's world, I had no rights. I had no privacy. I was public property. Fast forward 13 years. I thought I had escaped. I thought distance and money would protect me. I threw myself into my work. At my firm, I wasn't the daughter of a narcissist, I was a rising star. But even there, I had enemies. There was a woman named Chloe. Chloe was ambitious, talented, and ruthless. She was gunning for the same senior partner promotion that I was. Chloe was looking for any weakness. Any crack in my armor. And she knew, somehow, that my family was my weak point. She would watch me when I took personal calls from my mother, seeing my face tighten, seeing the stress lines appear. You look tired, Sienna, she would say with a fake smile, leaning against my doorframe. Family drama again? Maybe you should take some time off. You don't want to burn out before the big review. I knew I had to be perfect. I couldn't let my messy personal life bleed into my professional one. I needed that promotion. It was the final lock on the door of my independence. When I first bought the penthouse, the first month was pure bliss. I would walk around naked. I would eat cereal at midnight standing over the sink. I would sit in my Eames chair and read for 3 hours without anyone asking me to do chores or critiquing my hair. It felt like I had finally exhaled after holding my breath for 2 decades. My mother didn't say congratulations when I bought it. She said, so, when do I get a key? I told her no. I told her I had a building manager, Mr. Wallace, who handled emergencies. She didn't accept that. For 2 months, she waged a campaign of psychological warfare. But she didn't win with nagging. She won with fear. It was 3 in the morning on a Tuesday. My phone rang. It was her. Sienna? She gasped, her voice sounding weak and thready. Sienna, I think I am having heart palpitations. My chest feels so tight. Mom? Call 911. I sat up in bed, terrified. I did, she whispered. But, oh God, it hurts. Sienna, this is why I need a key to your place. What if this happens when I am visiting you? Or what if it happens to you? You are so far up in that tower. If I can't get to you. She let the sentence hang there. I was panic-stricken. I drove to her house in my pajamas, speeding the whole way. I ran red lights. I thought she was dying. When I got there, the paramedics were leaving. I rushed inside. My mother was sitting up in bed, sipping herbal tea. She didn't look like someone who just had a heart attack. She looked comfortable. The paramedics said it was just a mild panic attack, she said, smoothing her duvet. Nothing to worry about. But you sounded like you were dying, I said, my adrenaline crashing into anger. Well, anxiety feels like dying, Sienna. And I have so much anxiety lately. I worry about you constantly. Alone in that big glass box. She looked at me with big, watery eyes. If something happens to you and I can't get in, I would die. I really would. Guilt is a powerful weapon. I was exhausted. I was scared. And she knew it. She had orchestrated this entire performance to prove a point: distance is dangerous. I sat on the edge of her bed. I reached into my purse and pulled out a single silver key. Fine, I said. I handed it to her, and I looked her dead in the eye. I said, listen to me, Mom. This is for medical emergencies only. Fire, flood, or blood. That is it. You do not come over to clean. You do not come over to hang out. Do you understand? She stopped looking frail instantly. It was like a miracle cure. She sat up, took the key, and smiled. Of course, silly, she laughed. I am not going to invade your space. I just want peace of mind. I should have known better. I should have known that for Deborah, peace of mind meant total control. As I walked out of her house, I felt a pit in my stomach. I told myself I was being paranoid. But deep down, I knew I had just handed an arsonist the matches to burn down my life. The erosion of my boundaries didn't happen all at once. It wasn't an explosion, it was a slow leak. I returned from a business trip to Tokyo a week later, exhausted but happy. All I wanted was to walk into my silent, clean apartment, order takeout, and sleep for 12 hours. I unlocked the door. The apartment looked the same. But it smelled wrong. Instead of the crisp, clean scent of sandalwood that I used, the air was thick with the smell of vanilla fields. It was the cheap drugstore perfume my mother had worn since 1995. It was cloying, sweet, and it stuck to everything. I frowned and walked to the thermostat. It was set to 78 degrees. I always kept it at 68. I pulled out my phone and called her. Hi honey. You're back. She chirped, sounding innocent. Mom, were you here? I asked. There was a pause. A calculated pause. Oh, I just popped in to water the plants. I thought they looked a little thirsty. I have a self-watering system, Mom. We talked about this. Emergencies only. Sienna, stop being so dramatic, she sighed, switching instantly to the victim role. You are imagining things. You work too hard. Just say thank you. I hung up. I stared at my beautiful, silent apartment. It felt tainted. The vanilla smell was just the warning shot. The real invasion began 2 weeks later. It was a Sunday morning. Sunday was my holy day. It was the one day I didn't work. I usually slept until 10. I woke up at 8:30 to the sound of sizzling. At first, I thought I was dreaming. Then I heard the clatter of a pan hitting the stove grate. I grabbed my robe and walked into the kitchen, my heart pounding. My mother was standing at my stove. She was wearing an apron. She was flipping pancakes. Good morning, sleepyhead. She chirped. Mom, I whispered. You unlocked the door while I was sleeping? Well, I didn't want to wake you up by knocking, she said. Sit down. Eat. I didn't sit. I felt violated. The idea that she could just walk in while I was unconscious in my bed made my skin crawl. It wasn't sweet, it was terrifying. I was drowning in my own home. I needed a lifeline. That lifeline appeared in the form of Julian. I met Julian at a coffee shop near my office. He was a structural engineer. He was quiet, kind, and he listened when I talked. He didn't interrupt. He didn't try to control me. We bonded over blueprints and the beauty of silent spaces. We went on 3 dates. For the first time in years, I felt safe. I felt like I could breathe. Julian was the opposite of my mother. He respected boundaries. I remember our first real date perfectly. We went to a small jazz club. He asked me about my favorite buildings. He didn't talk about himself the whole time. He looked at me like I was the only person in the room. At the end of the night, he walked me to my building. He didn't push to come up. He just kissed me on the cheek and said, "I really like getting to know you, Sienna." I went upstairs and floated into my apartment. For the first time, the silence didn't feel lonely. It felt full of possibility. But while my personal life was blooming, my professional life was under attack. And my mother was the weapon. I was leading a pitch for a major eco-resort project. This was a $5 million contract. I was hosting a Zoom meeting with the investors from my home office because of the time difference. Chloe, my rival, was also on the call, watching from her screen. I was wearing my best blazer. I was in the middle of explaining the water filtration system. My career depended on this presentation. Suddenly, the door behind me flew open. "Sienna!" My mother's voice boomed. I froze. I tried to keep my eyes on the camera. "Excuse me, gentlemen, just one moment. Sienna, where do you keep the laundry detergent?" she yelled, walking into the frame. She was holding a laundry basket filled with my dirty clothes. My underwear, my lace underwear, was draped visibly over the top. "Mom! Get out!" I hissed, frantically trying to mute the microphone. "Don't shush me. I am trying to help you. You have no clean socks." She looked at the screen. "Oh, are you on a call? Hello." She waved at the Japanese investors. "She works too hard, you know. She needs a husband." I slammed the laptop shut. I shoved her out of the room and locked the door. When I logged back in, Chloe was smirking. The investors were polite, but the air had changed. I wasn't the brilliant lead architect anymore. I was the child whose mommy did her laundry. I needed to reclaim my space. I decided to invite Julian over for dinner. This was a massive step for me. My penthouse was my fortress, and letting someone in meant I trusted them completely. I wanted to cook for him. I wanted to share my sanctuary with him. I made risotto. I lit candles. We were sitting at the kitchen island, drinking wine. The lights of the city were twinkling below us. It was perfect. I felt a warmth in my chest that I hadn't felt in a long time. Then, the lock clicked. Julian froze. Is someone else here?" Before I could answer, the door swung open. My mother walked in. She wasn't carrying food this time. She was carrying a heavy metal tape measure. "Mom?" I stood up, my face burning hot. She didn't look at me. She looked at Julian. She scanned him up and down with a look of pure disdain. "Who is this?" she asked. "This is Julian," I said, my voice shaking. "We are having dinner." Julian stood up, extending a hand. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Miller." She didn't take his hand. "Structural engineer, huh?" she said. "Is that steady work?" "Sienna makes a lot of money, you know. She needs someone who can keep up." "How much do you make a year?" "Mom!" I shouted. She ignored me. She marched to the windows and extended the tape measure against the glass with a loud, aggressive scrape. "Don't mind me. I just need to measure for new curtains. This room is too masculine. It needs softening." Julian looked at me. He looked at her. He looked terrified. I should go," he said. "No, Julian, please," I begged. "It is getting late," he said. He grabbed his coat and practically ran to the elevator. My mother retracted the tape measure with a snap. "Well," she said. "He wasn't very polite. You can do better." An hour later, I got a text from Julian. "Hey Sienna. You are great. But your mother, that was intense. I don't think I can handle that kind of drama. Good luck." I sat on my kitchen floor and cried. She had taken my privacy. Now, she had taken the first good man I had met in years. I screamed at her to get out. I screamed until my throat was raw. "You ruined everything," I yelled. She just rolled her eyes. "Oh, Sienna, stop being so dramatic. If he couldn't handle a little question, he wasn't man enough for you. I saved you from a mistake." She honestly believed she was the hero. She left, telling me I was being hormonal and that she would come back when I was less hysterical. A month later, things escalated from annoying to psychologically damaging. I was scheduled to fly to London for a design conference. I am a meticulous packer. I always keep my passport in a small, fireproof safe in my closet. 2 days before the flight, I went to get it. The safe was unlocked. And it was empty. My heart hammered against my ribs. I tore the closet apart. I checked my bags. I checked the drawers. It was gone. I started to panic. I called my office. I called the airline. I was sitting on my bedroom floor, surrounded by piles of clothes, hyperventilating. I was going to miss the conference. I was losing my mind. Then, the doorbell rang. It was my mother. She strolled in, holding a casserole dish. "Why are you crying?" she asked. "I lost my passport," I sobbed. "I can't find it anywhere." "Oh, Sienna," she sighed, shaking her head. "You are always so disorganized. Did you check under the sofa cushions?" "Mom, why would it be under the sofa cushions?" "It was in the safe." "Just check," she insisted. I walked into the living room. I lifted the cushion of my Eames sofa. There, tucked neatly in the corner, was my passport. I stared at it. I knew, with 100% certainty, that I had never put it there. "See?" she said, walking up behind me. "You would lose your head if it wasn't screwed on. Good thing you have me to find things for you." I looked at her smiling face. She had moved it. She had come in while I was at work, taken it out of the safe, and hid it. Just so she could be the savior. Just so she could prove I was incompetent without her. I didn't say anything. I just felt a cold chill settle in my bones. I wasn't just annoyed anymore. I was afraid. Before we get to the part where the trap is sprung, I want to ask you a favor. If you have ever had a family member who just could not understand the word no, hit that like button. And if you want to see more stories about people reclaiming their lives, make sure to subscribe. Also, drop a comment down below telling me the name of the city you are listening from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Every comment helps this video reach more people who might be dealing with their own Deborah. Thank you so much. Now, let's get back to the nightmare. The passport incident was the catalyst, but the confirmation that I needed to go to war came from Riley. I met my sister for lunch the next day at a small bistro near her office. Riley is 24, but she often looks much younger, burdened by the weight of living in our parents' house. Today, she looked haggard. There were dark circles under her eyes, and she was picking at her salad without eating. "Sienna," she said, leaning across the table, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Mom is planning something big." I put down my fork. "What do you mean?" "I heard her on the phone last night. She didn't know I was in the kitchen. She was talking to Mrs. Higgins, the president of the West Side Women's Association." My stomach tightened. "And?" "She was talking about the annual charity gala. She was bragging about securing a venue. She kept saying the Penthouse." My blood ran cold. The bistro noise faded into a dull roar. "She wouldn't," I said, though I knew immediately that she would. "She knows I am furious with her. We haven't spoken properly since the passport thing." Riley shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. "She doesn't care, Sienna. She told Mrs. Higgins that you begged her to host it. She said you wanted to show off your success. She thinks you are just having a tantrum and that you'll get over it. She thinks she owns you. I stared at my sister. I saw the fear in her eyes, fear of our mother, fear of the conflict. She thinks she owns the apartment, Riley continued. And she thinks she owns us. You have to save yourself, Sienna. I don't know how to stop her, but you have to. I left that lunch shaking with rage. But before I went nuclear, I made one last attempt to see if there was any sanity left in my family. I reached out to the only other adult in the equation, my father, Richard. I asked him to meet me for coffee. I needed to look him in the eye. Dad, I said, skipping the pleasantries. Riley told me about the gala. I know Mom is planning to host 40 people in my apartment next Saturday. You have to stop her. He sighed. He took a long sip of his black coffee. He didn't look surprised. He didn't look angry. He just looked tired. Sienna, look, he said, avoiding my gaze. She has been so depressed lately. You know how she gets. She needs this. She needs to feel important in front of her friends. The Women's Association is her whole life. It is my home, Dad. I slammed my hand on the table. It is my sanctuary. It is not a venue she can rent out with emotional currency. I know. But, listen to me. If I try to stop her, she will make my life miserable for months. She will scream, she will break things, she will give me the silent treatment. He reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled away. Just let her have this one night, Sienna. Please. For me. Just go stay in a hotel. Let her have her party. She will clean up after, I promise. It is just easier this way. I looked at my father. For years, I thought he was a victim of her madness, just like me. But in that moment, I realized the truth. He wasn't a victim, he was an accomplice. He was willing to sacrifice my boundaries, my mental health, and my property just to keep his own life quiet. Okay, Dad, I said softly. I understand. He exhaled, relieved. Thank you, honey. I knew you would be reasonable. He thought I was agreeing to the party. I wasn't. I was accepting that I was truly an orphan. I had no parents. I only had an abuser and an enabler. I needed concrete proof. Hearsay from Riley wouldn't hold up in court, and it wouldn't satisfy my need for absolute certainty. The following Sunday, I went to my parents' house for the mandatory family dinner. I played the part of the dutiful daughter. I smiled. I ate the pot roast. I waited until my mother was in the garden, bragging to a neighbor about her hydrangeas. I slipped into the kitchen pantry. This was where she kept her command center, a desk cluttered with mail, receipts, and her social calendar. I searched through the stacks. And then, I found it. It was a box of heavy, cream-colored envelopes. Professional printing. Gold foil text. I opened one. You are cordially invited to the annual Westside Charity Gala. Hosted by Deborah Miller. Location, the Skyview Penthouse, 400 West Main Street. Date, Saturday, October 14th. 7 p.m. Cocktails and dinner will be served. RSVP, 40 guests. 40 people. Caterers. Live music. In my home. Next Saturday. I took a picture of the invite with my phone. I put the box back exactly where I found it. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a cold, hard resolve. I walked out to the garden. So, Mom, I said, leaning against the doorframe. What are you guys doing next weekend? She turned, smiling that fake, sweet smile. Oh, nothing much, dear. Just a quiet weekend at home. Your father wants to watch the football game. Cool, I said. I have to go to San Francisco for a client meeting. I will be gone all weekend. Leaving Friday morning. Relief washed over her face. It was instantaneous. Oh. That is wonderful, dear. San Francisco is lovely this time of year. Don't worry about the apartment. I will keep an eye on things. She wasn't keeping an eye on things. She was counting on my absence. I went straight from my parents' house to Layla's office. Layla has been my best friend since architecture school. She is also a ruthless contract lawyer who eats liability cases for breakfast. I threw my phone on her desk, showing her the photo of the invitation. She is insane, Layla said, staring at it. 40 people? In a residential unit? The liability alone is a nightmare. She has a key, I said, pacing her office. I gave it to her for emergencies. If I call the cops while she is there, they might say it is a civil matter because I gave her access. Layla nodded, her eyes sharpening. Exactly. Possession of a key implies consent to enter. We need to revoke that consent. Explicitly. In writing. We need to create a paper trail that turns her from a mother into a trespasser. She pulled out a legal pad. We are going to send a text. It needs to be specific. It needs to be undeniable. It cannot be emotional. It must be transactional. We spent 20 minutes drafting the perfect message. I sat in Layla's office and typed it out. My thumb hovered over the send button. I knew that once I sent this, there was no going back. This was the declaration of war. I hit send. Mom, just a reminder regarding this weekend. I am leaving for San Francisco on Friday morning. I am setting the master alarm system. Do not come over to the apartment this weekend for any reason. I do not want anyone in the space while I am gone. Please confirm you understand. We waited. The 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. 3 minutes later, she replied. Okay, honey. Have a safe flight. Don't worry, I won't bother you. Got her, Layla said, slapping the desk. She acknowledged the instruction. She lied about her intentions, but she acknowledged the boundary. If she enters that apartment on Saturday, it is criminal trespassing under the penal code. The rest of the week was a blur of preparation. I felt like I was planning a heist, but the target was my own home. I bought 3 high-definition, motion-activated security cameras. On Wednesday, when I knew my mother was at her bridge club, I installed them. 1 in the foyer, facing the front door. 1 in the living room, covering the main entertaining area. And 1 in the hallway leading to the bedrooms. I connected them to a cloud server and tested the live feed on my phone. The picture was crystal clear. I booked a room at the Archer, a boutique hotel directly across the street from my building. I specifically requested a room on the 6th floor with a view of my own balcony. Friday morning arrived. The day of the trip. I packed a suitcase. I put on my traveling clothes, leggings, an oversized sweater, a baseball cap. I took a photo of my suitcase by the door. Then, I dug into my camera roll. I found a photo I had taken 2 years ago at the San Francisco Airport Lounge. I posted it on my Instagram story with the caption, "Off to SF for the weekend. See you on Monday." I hid my story from my mother. She doesn't check Instagram often, but I made sure it was visible to Aunt Carol and my cousins, knowing they would report back to her. I called an Uber. I loaded my suitcase. Heading to the airport? The driver asked. Actually, no, I said. Just across the street to the Archer Hotel. He looked confused, but he drove the 200 yards. I checked into the hotel room. It was small, but it had the view I needed. I could see the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse. They were dark. I set up my command station. My laptop was open with the camera feeds. My phone was plugged in. I ordered a large coffee and a pizza. Now, I waited. Friday night passed. Nothing. Saturday morning passed. Nothing. I started to doubt myself. Maybe she wouldn't come. Maybe she had listened. Maybe my dad had grown a spine and stopped her. But I knew Deborah. I knew she couldn't resist the spotlight. At 3 p.m. on Saturday, my phone buzzed. Motion detected, front door. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I opened the feed. There she was. My mother walked in like she owned the place. She was wearing a beige power suit and holding a clipboard. She looked around the foyer with a critical eye. Behind her was Riley. Poor Riley. She was carrying 2 massive bags of ice and a box of decorations. She looked miserable. "Pick up your feet, Riley." I heard my mother bark through the camera microphone. "Don't drag your shoes on the floor." "Mom, I really don't think we should be doing this," Riley said, her voice shaking. Sienna said no. She sent that text. She was really specific. "Sienna is in San Francisco," Deborah scoffed, checking her watch. "She is probably in a meeting right now. What she doesn't know won't hurt her. Besides, it is for charity. God will forgive us." She clapped her hands. "Now, move that ugly gray chair. It clashes with my napkins. And get the folding tables from the hall." I watched on my screen as my mother began to dismantle my home. She pushed my $2,000 Eames chair into the corner like it was junk. She started hanging cheap, glittery gold streamers from my imported Italian lighting fixtures. She was erasing me. She was overriding my taste, my rules, and my existence with her own. I was angry, but I was still hesitating to call the police. It was still my mother. Maybe I could just call her? Maybe I could scream at her through the camera speaker? Then, the moment happened that hardened my heart into stone. My mother found my wine fridge. She opened it and began rifling through the bottles. She pulled out a bottle of vintage Cabernet Sauvignon. It was a 2015 Napa Valley Reserve. I had bought it to celebrate my promotion. It cost $500. She uncorked it. She didn't even use a proper aerator. She just glugged it into a glass. "Needs to breathe," she muttered, taking a sip and making a face. "A bit dry." She set the glass down on the edge of the coffee table so she could yell at Riley again. "Riley, the napkins." Her hip bumped the table. The glass tipped. Dark red wine splashed across my pristine white wool rug. The stain spread instantly, a jagged, dark purple wound on the white fabric. I gasped in the hotel room. My hand flew to my mouth. On the screen, my mother looked down. She didn't panic. She didn't run for salt or club soda. She didn't look guilty. She just sighed, annoyed. She grabbed one of my decorative throw pillows, silk, hand-stitched, and tossed it over the stain. "Nobody will notice," she said. That was it. That was the moment. She didn't care about me. She didn't care about my property. She only cared about appearances. She was willing to destroy my things and hide the evidence without a second thought. I picked up my phone. I waited. Layla had told me, "Let the party start. If you stop her now, it's just a family dispute. If you wait until the guests are there, it is a public disturbance and a massive violation." At 7 p.m., the buzzer started ringing. The guests arrived. The church ladies. The wealthy socialites of the West Side Women's Association. A parade of fur coats, heavy jewelry, and hairspray. They walked in, cooing over the view. "Oh, Deborah, this place is magnificent," one woman exclaimed. Thank you," my mother preened. "I did most of the interior design myself. Sienna is good with structure, but she has no eye for warmth. I had to fix so much." They wandered through my home. I saw a woman pick up a framed photo of me and put it face down because it distracted from the floral arrangement. I saw another woman come out of my bathroom holding my expensive face cream. "Deborah, is this La Mer? Can I try some?" "Help yourself," my mother yelled across the room. "She has plenty." The noise level on the microphone was deafening. jazz music. Laughter. The clinking of glasses. It was a violation in the truest sense of the word. My sanctuary had been invaded. It was 7:30. The party was in full swing. There were about 40 people in my apartment. I stood up in the hotel room. I put on my coat. I smoothed my hair. I checked my reflection. I didn't look like a victim. I looked like an architect of vengeance. "It is time," I whispered to the empty room. I walked across the street to my building. The night air was cool. I stood in the lobby, out of sight of the concierge, and dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? I need to report a home invasion in progress, I said. My voice was calm, almost robotic. I am the owner of the Penthouse at 400 West Main Street. I am currently watching my security feed. There are approximately 40 unknown individuals inside my home. Are you in immediate danger, ma'am? I am outside the building. But my property is being damaged. And I believe the intruders have forced entry using a stolen key. We have officers in the area. Stay on the line. I waited. 5 minutes passed. Then, 2 squad cars pulled up silently. No sirens. They parked at the curb. 4 officers stepped out. I walked out to meet them. Mr. Wallace, the building manager, saw the police lights and came rushing out of his office, looking terrified. What is going on? Mr. Wallace asked. Mr. Wallace, I said, keeping my voice steady. There are people in my apartment. My mother broke in. I need you to confirm to these officers that I am the sole leaseholder and that no one else has authorization to be there. Mr. Wallace looked at me, then at the cops. He nodded vigorously. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Ms. Miller is the only tenant. We have strict guest policies. I turned to the lead officer, a tall man named Sergeant Miller. I pulled up the text message on my phone. I have text messages confirming I denied her access 2 days ago, I said. I want them removed. And I want to press charges for trespassing. The sergeant looked at me. Ma'am, if it is your mother, family disputes are usually civil matters. Officer, I cut him off. If a stranger stole my key and threw a party, you would arrest them. The fact that we share DNA does not give her the right to destroy my home. She is trespassing. Proceed. He looked at my face. He saw I wasn't backing down. He saw the cold resolve. Okay, he said. Let's go up. The elevator ride was silent. Mr. Wallace used his master override key to take us straight to the penthouse. I stood behind the 4 officers. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. This was it. There was no going back. The elevator door slid open. The noise hit us first. Chatter, laughter, jazz music. The smell of heated appetizers and expensive perfume. Then, silence. It rippled through the room like a wave. The people closest to the elevator turned and saw the uniforms. They nudged their neighbors. Within 10 seconds, the entire room was dead silent. The jazz music seemed to blare louder in the quiet. My mother was standing near the window, holding a glass of champagne. She turned around, a smile still plastered on her face, expecting a late guest. Her eyes landed on the police. Then they landed on me. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. Who is the owner of this residence? Sergeant Miller announced, his voice booming. I stepped out from behind him. I am. My mother let out a strangled laugh. Sienna. What is this? Why are the police here? I told you not to come, Mom, I said. My voice was calm, deadly calm. I have the text. I told you no. Don't be ridiculous, she waved a hand, her bracelets jingling. Officers, this is my daughter. We are having a charity event. She is having a bad day. She is tired. She forgets things. She tried to walk toward the sergeant, putting on her best charming smile. I am sure we can sort this out. Would you like a crab puff? Ma'am, step back, the sergeant said, hand resting on his belt. We have a complaint of trespassing. You and all your guests need to vacate the premises immediately. The guests started murmuring. Trespassing? I thought she said Sienna wanted us here. This is embarrassing. My mother looked around, seeing her social standing crumbling in real time. She panicked. No. No, you can't kick us out. I am her mother. I have a right to be here. I have a key. A key she was told not to use, I said. It is theft. I did this for you. She screamed, her mask finally slipping. Her face twisted into ugliness. You ungrateful little brat. I invite these nice people here to celebrate you, and you call the cops? After everything I have done? I gave you life. And now you are ruining mine, I said. Get out. The guests began to scramble. They grabbed their purses and coats, avoiding eye contact with me, scurrying toward the elevator like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Don't leave. My mother yelled at them. She is joking. It is a prank. Nobody stopped. The room emptied rapidly. Desperate, my mother lunged toward me. She reached out, her fingers hooked like claws. You listen to me, the officer intercepted her. He grabbed her arm. She shrieked. She tried to yank away. In her panic, she swung her other hand, the one holding the champagne glass. It shattered against the officer's tactical vest. That was the mistake. That is assault on an officer. Turn around. Now. And then came the sound. Click. Click. My mother was handcuffed. You are arresting me? She wailed. Me? I am a good Christian woman. Riley. Do something. Riley was standing in the corner, holding a tray of appetizers. She looked at me, then at Mom. She set the tray down. She didn't move. The police marched my mother toward the elevator. As she passed me, she stopped struggling. She looked at me with eyes full of pure hatred. You are dead to me, she hissed. Don't you ever call me again. I won't, I said. The elevator doors closed. The silence that followed was heavy. The apartment was wrecked. Food on the floor. Wine on the rug. But I didn't clean. I just sat on the floor and breathed. The next morning, the fallout began. I went to my office. At 10 a.m., security called me. Ms. Miller, there is a woman here to see you. She is causing a disturbance. I walked to the lobby. It was my Aunt Carol. She saw me and pointed a finger. You evil girl. Security started to move in, but she kept screaming. You had your own mother arrested? In handcuffs? Like a common criminal? She spent the night in a cell. How could you? She was just trying to show you love. You have shamed this entire family. Chloe, my workplace rival, was watching from the balcony, a smirk on her face. I didn't argue. I didn't try to explain. I looked at the security guard. Please escort this woman out. She is harassing me. And if she comes back, call the police. Carol was dragged out, screaming that I was going to hell. I looked up at Chloe. She stopped smirking. She saw the look on my face. She realized that if I could do that to my own mother, I could handle a workplace bully. She turned and walked away. 3 days later, I sat in a conference room at Layla's law firm. Across the table sat my mother and her lawyer. My mother looked smaller. She wasn't wearing makeup. She wouldn't look at me. Here is the deal, Layla said, sliding a document across the table. Sienna is willing to ask the district attorney to drop the criminal trespassing charges. The resisting arrest charge is between you and the police, but the trespassing goes away if you agree to these terms. My mother's lawyer read them out loud. 1. Full reimbursement for all damages, including the rug and professional cleaning. Total, $5,400. 2. Mandatory attendance at 6 months of therapy with a licensed specialist. 3. A permanent restraining order barring Deborah Miller from Sienna Miller's residence and workplace. This is ridiculous, my mother muttered. Therapy? I don't need therapy. Then you can go to trial, I said. I have the text messages. I have the video footage of you breaking in. I have 40 witnesses. You will lose. And you will have a criminal record. She looked at her lawyer. He nodded grimly. Take the deal, Deborah. She picked up the pen. Her hand was shaking. She signed it. I hope you are happy, she said, finally looking at me. Her eyes were wet. You won. You have your precious house. And you have no mother. I haven't had a mother in a long time, I said. I had a manager. And I am firing you. Riley came over for dinner last night. She looks different. Lighter. Seeing Mom in handcuffs broke the spell, Riley told me. I realized she wasn't invincible. She was just a sad, controlling woman. Riley moved out of the parents' house 3 days after the arrest. She has her own apartment now. She is finally free. We drank wine, a new bottle, and laughed. For the first time, we were just sisters, not soldiers in our mother's war. 3 months have passed. The rug has been replaced. The walls have been repainted. I installed a biometric lock on the front door, fingerprint only. It is quiet here. Sometimes, late at night, I feel a ghost of the old guilt. I think about her sitting alone in her big house in the suburbs, waiting for the phone to ring. But then I look at my hallway. I see the black and white photo of the Brooklyn Bridge hanging exactly where I want it. I smell the air, clean, crisp, with a hint of sandalwood, not vanilla. I am safe. I am free. So, looking at my quiet, peaceful home now, did I take it too far? Should I have just let her finish the party, gritted my teeth, and cleaned up the mess like I always did? Or did she deserve those handcuffs to finally learn what the word "no" actually means? Personally, I think the silence is worth the price of admission. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this tale of high-stakes revenge and finally breaking free, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments, would you call the cops on your own mother if she did this to you? Or would you have handled it differently? I read every comment. See you in the next video.